I wanted to talk to you about Trilogy, and I'm a fan of the record.
Yeah, I hope so.
I love the record, actually.
Guys can hear me, the Camels and the lighter. Yeah, I hope you like it because we put a lot of work in that thing, you know. And I've been unhappy about, not for myself because everybody was kind to me about the album, but the Jenkins piece, you know, around the nation, a lot of guys they just didn't understand it. I don't understand why they didn't understand it. It's a mythical trip that he takes you on. And knowing me as well as he knows me, I didn't realize we know each other for 30 years, and we must have talked about our childhood all the time, from time to time.
You must have, because I was going to ask you.
In there.
Well, I was going to ask you.
When I saw it the first time, it scared me. I said, "How do you remember all of that?" He said, "Well, you told me about the pool room and the fun you had with the guys in the street and the teachers and all that kind of jazz." And he put it together quite beautifully. And I feel, Mitch, that eventually, first of all, he told me, and other people told me, I didn't remember about Manhattan Tower being a loner for a long time, and then somebody caught on to it, and then the country finally caught on to it. And I think maybe that could happen with this piece.
Well, this is a piece that's going to sneak up on a lot of people. I mean, I have my own theory why you got a mixed reaction on that third piece, because I even brought this with me, too, because this is incredible right here.
Part of what he wrote, you mean?
Well, you know, I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you. He either knows you like a brother, or you collaborated.
I didn't collaborate at all.
Okay.
They came to, just historically speaking, he came up to Vegas over a year ago, I guess, because it took us almost a year to make the damn thing. But he came up with Sonny Berg, may he rest in peace, and he said, "We want to know why you're not recording." I said, "Because there's another garbage. I can't record garbage. I said, "Nobody's writing any songs for me, and I don't know what to do about it." So they said, "Well, we brought you something that Gordon wrote, and I had a setup in the suite up there, and when they put the tape on, now he had a synthesizer, and he had like 6 singers. He just had a small version of what the big thing was going to be. And I fell down when I heard it. I said, "Holy Christ, I'm going to learn all of that stuff." Because I can't read a note, but I got pretty good ears. But I said, "That's a lot of music." He said, "Well, you got to take your time with it." And he said, "Do you like it?" I said, "Well, from what I hear on the first shot," I said, "it's very interesting. Where did you get all of that?" He said, "Well, I remember things that we talked about through the past 30, 35 years." And apparently he did. I don't know if he made any notes, but he's got a pretty good head.
He must. I mean, there were some names, even names in here. That's Giacomo de Chester, the lefty.
Well, he's lefty.
He's lefty.
I call him lefty, yeah.
Okay.
And Chester, of course, is Van Heusen.
Okay. Who's Giacomo?
Giacomo's Puccini.
Okay.
And Franz is, from one Frank to another, is Franz Schubert. And I didn't get hip to it right away. You know, I just kept learning it. I kept saying, "What the hell is Franz from one Frank to another?" So finally I began to, when I heard the strains, I began to realize that it's the Schubert Serenade, or whatever the piece of music is that he used.
Right.
And then the piece from Madame Butterfly that follows the Giacomo piece. And Thanks Mrs. Verdi for Joe is a wonderful idea for Giuseppe Verdi, you know. And then to have that little piece. And then the Beethoven thing, he dropped that in there. And of course, he knocked me out with it.
You know, but the mixed reaction that you get to side 3, this is so damn biographical.
Yeah, I noticed.
And all of the other songs that you've done through the years, you've made biographical. And this almost comes as a surprise, and that's why I think that through the years it's going to wear well. But...
Oh, I agree with you. I think it's going to wear well. I think it's going to take time. I think it's...
Because it's so out front.
It's so imaginative. He's so marvelous about that. He knows how much I love living where we live in the desert, and he stayed with me down there. Apparently watched me when I'm at ease and happy at the house with all the dogs and the cats, and I love the whole the changes of the desert. And apparently I went through it with him, with sandstones one minute and a quake the next minute, and the house rattles, and suddenly it's sunny again. You know,
right.
The desert is an amazing phenomenon now.
The sunshine line that he has in here is also quite extraordinary. Is that to say that it got to you soon.
Yeah, that they brought the sunrise to my window a little bit sooner than
the next guy.
Yeah.
Than the next guy, really.
Yeah. That's interesting because I think that's based on Mitch. That's based on the fact that he knows, and a lot of my close friends know. I'm a kind of a classic buff without having studied any of it legitimately. I go to concerts and I love them and I know them. I know I can almost pick out. I'm not saying I, but I have to say it because it concerns me. My ear is attuned to Glier, Rachmaninoff, obviously, Tchaikovsky, and all that kind of. And he knows that I've been into that for years, and that's why I think he wrote the line that all of these great men brought the sunshine to my window a little earlier than the next guy.
Well, the point is that the sun seems to shine brighter today.
Yeah. I think that I couldn't prove it to you, and it's difficult even to explain. But I think my being hung up with the classics have a lot to do with what I've done with my own world, in delineating what I'm doing, if that's the proper word, or executing what I'm doing, phrasing wise, shading wise, which of course takes in all the dynamics that I try to use. So it makes it interesting for the listener. It's not all one line of volume or one tone. For instance, some of my co-workers, like take Shirley Bassey, who got the greatest pair of pipes in the world, but it's one line. It's just right there, like Edie, like Little Edie Gourmet.
Right.
And I don't deny them that, but I wonder why they don't sometimes think about using some shade.
They're not actresses. You're an actor.
I guess that's part of it too. The fact that I've done some films, and I think I try to recite the words, sing the words as though you were reciting the words, like it was a script. I think that's also pretty good on the ears of the listener. If he's attracted to me at all, or if he or she is attracted to me at all, I think they can understand that if I read a line in a certain way, in a quiet sense, it means exactly what the words in the song says. I think it's simply that.
Well, sometimes it takes on even a newer meaning.
Yeah, it can. It can. If for what I do with it.
Well, New York is a good example.
New York. The song's been around a while, and I heard it, many times. And then when we were doing the album, and I sat down with Costa, we had a tough time with Don's section because there was very little we could choose from. Stuff that.
Is that the problem now?
Yeah, that's the problem. There's so much garbage, There's really so much garbage. It's really a crime that a couple of kids are trying to come out of it. For instance, Carol Bayer Sager and Peter Allen. And Paul Williams was beginning to move, and all of a sudden he disappeared now. I don't know, and he's a good friend of mine, and I don't even see him anymore. And every time I see one of those guys, I say to him, why don't you please write something for me, You know what I do, and don't write me raindrops are falling on my head. I'm not putting a rap on that, but although if I had it first, I would have done it because it's a fun song to do. Or even The Gal's in Love with You, or The Guy's in Love with You.
Herb Alpert song.
Yeah, they're good songs. But I never got to those, and I didn't want to go back and cover all of those.
Right.
So, I don't know. We did the best we could with that side.
Well, I'll tell you something. From me to you, the side that I listen to the most is the contemporary side, is the present, which, and 3 incredible songs are now in your show from that. You and Me.
Yeah, I like You and Me.
The wonderful Michel Legrand song.
Oh, it's a great song.
It's a great song. And, of course, New York, New York, which last year was the song you opened with.
That's right. Yeah.
And now... I guess you have to close with it now.
We do close with it.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Yeah.
But that's why I say the sun shines brighter now, because of the contemporary material. The future side is going to take some time for people to even understand the melodic structure of what's going on.
Yeah, well, also, Mitch, you got to understand, and I'm sure you're way ahead of me with it, there are no songs per se, except I've Been There, which is, he wanted one ballad. By the way, he had another song in there about the moon, which had to do with the planets. But it wasn't a very good song as a song. It was a 32-bar song. And I told it to him. I said, I don't cotton to it as well as I do the material, the other material. I said, it seems like we're stopping to do a ballad that you are pointing up as a possible single. And he said, I am pointing up as a single. I said, well, maybe you can do something a little better than that. Maybe something else. And he wrote, that's not a bad song. He wrote the small ballad in the middle of the third side. I've Been There. It's
a lovely story.
Yeah, what he did is he leaned back on me with the September My Ears and all that kind of stuff, which is not too bad. And we do it in the show occasionally, and it gets a pretty good reaction. But I like the material, quote unquote, in the third side better than maybe he should not have ever tried to write a song. Maybe what that section should have tied in with the whole thing and been part of it a little bit more. Because it seems to me, I may be dead wrong, but it felt to me like we were moving away from what he was doing just to stop to do a song about two kids.
Right.
Of course, obviously once I was a kid and I did the same thing that they're doing.
But having you sing it gave me, the listener, it fit.
It fits. It fits.
It really did fit.
It fits. Sonny
Burke, you know, I guess we lost him very recently, and this was, I guess...
So suddenly, I couldn't believe it, really. I don't mean to get more than about it, but I had spoken to him, and he was in the hospital for a checkup. And I was in New York doing the film. And I heard he was in the hospital at St. John's, and I called him. And I said, what are you doing in there, Joe? He said, I don't know. He said he got some goddamn checkup with me, something wrong with down around my throat, and so on and so forth. I said, and he sounded as well as you or I sound now.
Right.
And I'll be damned, I think it was a week later he was dead. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, you know, when they called me up.
Because
Gordon called me up.
He really he put a lot into this project.
He worked on it, and he said to me, you've got to do this, he said, because I think it's something that it's a legacy you're going to leave behind. More than just a bunch of 32-bar songs, whether they're rhythm songs or ballads. He said, this thing is going to, people will play it for years and years and years. And an interesting thing, I met a friend of mine who was a doctor who, I meant to tell this to you about my old friend Henry Miller, who also died recently. We were friends for years. I loved him. He was a great old man. And my friend, the doctor, one of the many doctors, I think, who were watching him when to try to keep him alive, sat with him, I guess, the afternoon before he did die, and that Miller was propped up in bed, I guess with all the tubes and all that jazz, but he kept the tape going of the future, and he kept playing it, and this doctor, I lived in Palm Springs, he said to me, he just sat there and he was in tears, and he kept playing Miller was in tears and kept playing the thing over and over, and he said, that's probably the last thing I want to hear. And sure enough, he died about 12 or 15 hours later after that, which I think is an interesting tale. I haven't told it to Gordon yet, by the way.
That's incredible.
I'm going to see him Monday. I don't know where he was at the time, but I think it's pretty interesting that he, as a man his age, he latched on and he was going, and he was trying to look ahead to possibly where the hell is he going to go.
It's a great story. In taking 5 years to put together or to think about doing a record, again, has the success of Trilogy now really moved you to doing more recording?
Oh, sure, I'll record more. Now, we're talking, as a matter of fact, we're planning now. I think it's time that, I don't know, I mean, none of us are geniuses, but we guess at things, and I think that following this album, we should do, and it was, what's his name, Erdogan gave me the idea.
Ahmet?
Yeah, in New York, we had dinner. He said to me, you know what you ought to do? He said, now, you ought to really move away and get yourself about 6 or 8 guys, that's best jazz men in the world, and go in a studio, and no arrangements, and just pick out keys, and he had something very important. He said to me, have each of the men you choose submit 10 or 15 songs that they like to play, standards. And he said, pick the standards that you've never done, and just keep recording If one side runs 6 minutes, let it run 6 minutes. In other words, into a vocal, out of the vocal, maybe do a half a chorus, jump to a trombone player, and get the best men that we can find. And I like the idea, and I think we're going to do that. I'm not going to run in this at the end of this year. We'll let this thing run on, and then I think after New Year's is what we're going to do that. And I've been writing down songs like I never recorded, for instance, "Ain't Misbehavin'," which is a marvelous song, and we'll do a whole series. And in other words, if it turns out to be a double album, fine, and we'll leave it that way. Or if we get the best out of it and it turns out to be one album, fine. I don't think it should be more than one. I feel it should be one because of the fact that we have three in this one. If we come out with an album with 2 records, they'll say, wait a minute, he's reaching a little bit too far. I don't know. And then I'm hoping that beyond that we get some songs that some of these kids begin to write some songs for me, things that I can do well for them, like, for instance, You and Me. When I first heard that, I said, gee, that's a marvelous, that's a pop song, but it's great for me to do.
Well, now Something, which is a song that
Something, but, it's always been a marvelous song. It's
you're not doing it this year, but you've done it for a while.
That's right, I've done it for a good while.
I'm sure that you could reach back into
there are
early
others like
70s.
That, sure, the Beatles stuff. There's a lot of Beatles things I've never done,
Right.
We're looking at some of that stuff. And we may even find some ballads. If we do the jazz album, we find some ballads that lend themselves to a wonderful slow-tempo jazz, we'll do that. It needn't be all Fats Waller or whoever we choose. Or Benny Carter might have written a couple of songs years ago. We don't have to stay that way. I feel, it's like when we did the thing with Basie, and I did and he was hysterical. He said to me, hey man, what's up next? I said, I only have eyes for you. He said, shit. He couldn't believe it. And Quincy Jones wrote a marvelous arrangement, and I only have eyes for you. And it jumped, So we could do that in the jazz album, and then go with jazz things that I have never done, strangely enough, that I didn't do. Because I'm essentially not a jazz singer. But I think I can keep time pretty good. And that's all I have to do, is just keep time.
Which gets me to conducting, because you're...
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that I've been watching you for many years, and you've conducted with gestures. I mean, you've done it when you've been facing the audience. Now you've taken a different step.
Yeah, well, I'm doing that. Actually, that came about because I thought... it started with the Carnegie Hall date. I said to Vinnie Falcone, if we're going to do a concert, let's do a real concert. Let's not get a comic in front. Let's get a group. We went for Peterson, and he was booked. He was busy. And then we talked about a couple of other jazz groups, and then somebody, I think Rudin, came up with Sergio, and I said, gee, that's a great idea. Of course, his music is completely removed from what we're doing. So consequently, it works pretty well with the Brazilian sound, and he's got the gals singing, and it's kind of nice, and it's all upbeat, in other words. And also, we didn't want to use Sarah or Ella again, which we've done before. And we got talking about it, and I said, well, then in our end of it, why don't we do? Turner is such a good trumpet player. I said, let's get him to play something, and he just took my arrangement of "Don't Worry About Me," and that's what he plays. And now, of course, we had Billy May just wrote, when we came in here, he wrote "The Very Thought of You," which is what Turner chose. He said, I'd like to do "A Very Thought of You." Now we're getting more trumpet solos for him to play. And Harry Sipman, I've been talking to him. He was the wonderful man who used to work with Victor Young all through the Paramount days. And he's writing some concertized piano things for full orchestra, not with just... Because Vinny did his own arrangement with this, with his strings, the basso. And we're thinking about things like Summer 42 theme, Stella by Starlight, for Vinny to play, where I will be able to conduct, and it gives me a breather. It gives me a breather where Charlie works and where Vinny works. And in New York, we had Tony Mottola, who was probably one of the finest guitarists ever lived, and he did a little something when we wanted him, and broke up the whole act. It was a different kind of a performance. And I said, let's keep it. Let's move it into Universal and do the same thing that we've done there. Because we had a longer show at Carnegie, and we had a huge orchestra, bigger than this orchestra, huge. But I want to keep doing that because it's fun to do, and I know enough about it and how to keep an orchestra
That's
together.
my point.
You know.
You've done it anyway.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, you've done it facing the audience.
That's true. That's true.
With gestures, with moves.
And I've had some mail on it. Been getting some mail about the conducting part. That people have been very, very sweet and said, "Why don't you do a little more of it? Do something a little more serious." By the way, more serious. And I thought, oh, that's all I got to do is to try to jump into something serious. But otherwise, I think it's all going well, and recording-wise, it's a mystery. It's up in the air. It's up for grabs. It depends upon how many songs we can have written. Now, I'm also working on a thought for an album which I haven't done, a complete saloon album. I haven't done in a long time. But I want to do the jazz thing first, and I want to do a jazz album and call it "She Shot Me Down." It's the line from Bang Bang that Sonny Bono wrote. Nancy recorded it years ago. It was the only time I heard anybody sing it. She did it many years ago. And every one of the songs will be an out-and-out saloon song. There'll be tearjerkers and cry in your beer kind of things. Now, I've got a stack of that stuff, all new.
New songs?
New. From, I got 2 or 3 from Matt Dennis and Tom Adair. A wonderful song called How Did It All Slip Away, which is it's a marvelous song.
It's a great title.
Yeah. Gordy wrote a very touching song called What Time Did the Last Train Leave? And obviously my baby was on that train. And then it talks about how she blew me off. And let me see, who else? Alec Wilder sent in a couple of pretty good songs. And we're looking at those now. And we may prepare that and put it in a drawer and leave it that way. I mean, do the arrangements and get everything set. But in the interim, do the jazz album, and then maybe do the saloon album.
Well, it's a lot of activity. But let me ask you, with Sonny gone, who's going to be at the controls?
I don't know. We haven't thought about it yet.
It's a big void, isn't it?
Yeah. There are good men around. There are a lot of good guys around. We'll come up with somebody. And I miss him as a friend. We've been friends for so many years. He was a wonderful man. And bright. Man, he was bright. And he really worked his tail off on this album. Boy, did he work hard. He mixed and mixed and mixed and mixed. And he kept sending me tapes and saying any criticism and so on. And I just asked him to take a little piece from take number 5 or 10 or whatever it was and put it in the master. And he did. And finally, I think we have for my taste, I don't think we could have done it any better than the album is now. I doubt if we could have done it any better.
Well, that remains to be seen with future things that you do. But you made an incredible album. There's an incredible statement in that album, too. And I think that what's going to take people a little while on side 3 is that it is so incredibly you out front.
Yeah,
I mean, I really sat there and read these things tonight. And I said to myself, did he write that? You know, because I thought, I know you don't do that, but I said, my God, how would someone know all those things?
He just knew me well enough, and he's got he has great retention, and he may have made notes through the years. I don't know. But it was so funny. Their opening line when they came into the suite in Vegas and said, why haven't you been recording? And I looked at both of them, because we know each other so well. I said, what the hell kind of question is that? You know why I haven't been recording. They said, well, we brought something. We think you're about time you went back into the record business. And they played it, and I said, groovy.
So it was really the future side that spawned the whole album. Which is
after they played it for me, then Sonny said to me, what we want to do, Frank, is to put in front of it the past and the present. And I said, oh, that's a marvelous idea. And he said, you pick out, I'll submit songs for the past, and we'll try to do as many songs that you didn't do, which we really got very close to, And in the jazz things, that shouldn't be tough for me, because a lot of things I haven't done. So we really will be clean. Everything will be absolutely new for me.
And for Trilogy, the onus still was on you, because you had to still go through that painful song selection process, which must be unbelievable.
Oh, that's such a pain in the ass sometimes. You can list 50 songs, and you keep boiling it down and boiling it down, and suddenly you say, well, we got 20, and we only need 10. Or shall we use 16? Or shall we use 12? And we kept putting them in, taking them out, putting them in, taking them out. And the Billy May side I redid the whole album.
Mm-hmm.
We redid the entire album after I heard it.
Right.
It was down. It was so down. It was my fault. I picked all the wrong keys. So I called the copyist, Vern Yoakum, and I said, do me a favor. I sat with Vinny at the piano, and we took tune by tune, and up one tune, a half a tone, and the next one maybe was up a full tone.
Mm-hmm.
One of them we may have kept as it was. I think one of them we kept as it was. But we really went in and did the whole goddamn thing all over again because I was unhappy. I said, if we put this out, they're going to laugh us out of the music business. But it was worth going back and doing all over again. It was an expensive album, but I think it worked out fine.
Oh, and the side that seems to get the best reviews all the time is the first.
That's true. People like to hear that stuff that they're used to.
Yeah.
I think in some parts of the country, some of the stuff that I've gotten through Lee's office, some of the critiques, most of them have been very good, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, the only time it turned was, in general, was with Gordon's stuff. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was hurt, by the way. I spoke to him a few times on the phone, and he said, geez, I don't understand that, Francis. He said, apparently they don't understand what we're trying to do. And I said, listen, you can't win them all. I said, don't worry about it, because when they get a little older and they play it a little more,
mm-hmm.
they're going to catch on to a lot of things.
Yeah, and I go back to initially, the point is that there's always been this tension in the songs in the pop songs that you've done, that you've made yours.
Right.
You've made them seem biographical, that this is, whatever story you're telling, Gala Got Away,
mm-hmm.
or, just that as an example,
mm-hmm.
this has happened to you. This has happened to you in your life. There is, it's all there. It's all here, and you're saying that this is the way it was. It's almost like the guy, it's going to take the guy a while who's out there listening to get past the fact that there isn't that tension that he would normally relate to in the Gala Got Away, to say that this happened to me, too.
Right.
Because this happened to one man.
That's true. That's true.
And I think that may be that's the block that people will get over, and that's what I'm going to try to get across in this story.
I hope so. I hope they understand and really dig it, because he worked his butt off to get that thing done, and he's talented. He's a bright man. Anybody can write all those kind of lyrics and have every one of them mean something.
Mm-hmm.
Must be some kind of a giant, you know. And by the way,
well, he's always been that giant.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of Gala Got Away, which I've recorded before, but not as the medley. We're going to put that in She Shot Me Down, which is we'll close the album with that, because it's a great, solid piece of music.
Great piece. Great piece, but
the
of course
it's actually blend nicely.
You know, it's like I could sit there and listen to you do saloon songs all night long. Those kind of songs.
Yeah.
Because you call
they got to be good, though.
Well, you've done some great songs.
Oh, yeah.
You call attention to the fact that Tony Bennett is the only other saloon singer. And I take issue with that, with you, only because I don't believe that he is that kind of a singer.
I have to agree with you. I do agree with you.
Because he's not an actor.
I use another name with mine, because I didn't know what else to use.
Nobody does that. Nobody does that because it's that. No one ever leaned. Who else is going to lean against a lamppost in the wee small? In the wee small hours of a man's soul, which is the point that you get out. No one else gets that out.
That's true. How much time you got?
You got to do it?
Yeah.
You got to do it.
Oh, yeah, they're on already, aren't they? Yeah, they're on. I haven't even vocalized yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch. It was great to see you again, too. Take care of yourself, and thanks for all the nice things you do. I'm glad you like it, because
what you do.
I do the best I can.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Frank.
Take care of yourself, Mitch.